I grew up in Irwin, Tennessee. It's a small town tucked into the mountains, just 15 to 20 minutes away from where you and I are here right now. But it's a place where only about 20% of our residents have a bachelor's degree, according to the United States Census Bureau. That's far below our national average of 40%. Now, my family, they worked hard. My mom's a high school cafeteria worker who detailed cars on the weekends to get my sister and me through school. Growing up, I remember my dad had 2 jobs. He had his regular 40 to 60 hour a week plant job that he had worked his way up in since high school and gained leadership roles. And he also owned a roofing business that he'd work on the weekends and after his first job. My papaw was a self-employed contractor who unfortunately passed away at the age of 62 without ever having had access to health care. Now, my family's story, like so many other rural Americans, is a story of resilience. They taught me how to have a strong work ethic, to have grit, determination. They woke up earlier than everybody else. They stayed late. And they did whatever they needed to do to take care of us and those in our community. But it's also a story of limitations. It's a cycle, one of hard labor and few real opportunities to get ahead. And when you grow up watching those around you in your community struggle, you start to believe that struggle is just how life works. That you should settle. That dreaming bigger, that's actually for somebody else. Which leads me to a question I've been thinking about for quite some time. What happens when an entire community stops believing in the possibility of something better? I'll share with you some of the challenges facing rural America, especially in Appalachia. I'll talk through how education done correctly can be used as a tool to break that cycle. I'll share what's happening around us and how we can reimagine education to become more meaningful and accessible for all of us. First, the workforce is changing. The jobs my parents or grandparents had, those trade and factory jobs, they are evolving. And without technical training or education, workers are not going to become prepared or flexible. They'll become replaceable. And artificial intelligence, it's actually speeding this process up. According to a 2023 report by McKinsey & Company, up to 30% of hours worked across the United States are at risk of being automated. That means millions of jobs, especially in lower skilled industries, are at risk of being replaced. So the question becomes, how do we give people the types of jobs that are not replaceable? How do we allow people to have the opportunity to thrive in our new economy? Well, the answer is education. But in rural regions across America, especially in Appalachia, this kind of access to higher education isn't always a given. According to the Appalachian Regional Commission, only 26% of residents living in Appalachia have a bachelor's degree. Again, compare that to the national average of 40%. That gap is not just a number, it's the difference between limitation and opportunity. Because a college degree isn't just a piece of paper. It's a path to long-term stability. According to the Association of Public and Land-Grant Universities, an individual with a bachelor's degree on average earns $40,500 more and has a significantly higher retirement income over their lifetime than those with just a high school diploma. But it's not just about an individual. It's about what happens to an entire community when fewer people have access to opportunity. You and I, we've all seen this. Small towns, once thriving, now struggling to stay afloat as industries evolve. Jobs seemingly disappear, and people are impacted. And the data backs this up. According to the Appalachian Regional Commission, 21% of households in Central Appalachia rely on the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, or SNAP benefits. That's 10% higher than the national average. Why? Because lower education levels can lead to lower paying jobs. Lower paying jobs can lead to poverty. Well, poverty, it eliminates our choices and leaves our loved ones stuck in the same cycle over and over. For me, breaking that cycle started with college. I'm a first-generation college student. Nobody in my family had gone to college before me, and when I told my parents I wanted to major in political science, they asked, "Well, what are you going to do with that?" And to be completely honest with you, that is a very fair question, because in their world, getting an education isn't about chasing a passion or changing the world. It's about getting by. It's about surviving. But what I've learned is this: education should not just be about getting a job, although that's helpful. It should be about giving people the tools to imagine a life beyond just making ends meet. You know, because of college, I had the opportunity to intern in the Tennessee Secretary of State's office and in the United States Congress. These experiences taught me that I could have a voice in shaping the systems I once thought were untouchable. That realization changed everything for me. But here's the thing. Getting a degree should not just be about leaving your hometown behind. It should not be about escaping your roots. It should be about investing in them. And that's where so-called regional universities like ETSU can truly make a difference. An example of this is ETSU's Quality Enhancement Plan, or QEP, that helps students apply what they're learning in the classroom beyond campus and into the community by connecting students with local industries, serving the public, and leading regional projects. ETSU students aren't just volunteering, they're giving back. And civic engagement is a big part of this. I cannot think of a better example than when Hurricane Helene hit our region just a few months ago. I watched ETSU students step up. They organized a donation drive. They hosted and executed one of the largest blood drives in our region's history. That is the kind of education that sticks. But what can we do? Universities and institutions can do more to become stronger community partners. We can enhance technical education, engage with civic leaders in our community, and tie education to real economic opportunities in rural areas. Most importantly, we can expand degree equivalencies for work and life experiences. If you've worked, served, or led in your community, that should count. Because earning a degree shouldn't be something that's out of reach. It should be something you work towards as you build on the things you've already done. Now that brings me back to the question I asked at the beginning of my talk. What happens when an entire community stops believing in the possibility of something better? Well, they stop believing, They stop hoping. They stop dreaming. And eventually, communities stop growing. But it doesn't have to stay that way. If we reimagine education, if we recognize the value of lived experiences, and if we meet people where they already are, well, we can rebuild belief. We can spark hope again. And then finally, we can break the cycle. It's time to remind kids in places like Irwin that your voice matters. Your dreams are valid. And your future isn't limited by your zip code. Thank you.